young people are going to learn about sex, and our question has to be, where do we want them to learn it from? From the media? From their friends? Or do we want them to learn from an educated, responsible adult? Hi, I am Geeta Bhaskar Sujit, a women's wellness, feminine power, and sexual intimacy coach. Normalizing talk around sex within the family is my topic for today. And before I begin, I would like to thank the I Am family and the Rotary Club for giving me this opportunity. Talking about sex shouldn't be embarrassing. The more comfortable we are about sharing this with our kids, the safer they will be. Sex education is not just about what pleasures we gain from it, but also about sexual health and family planning. The aim of sexual education is to foster healthy sex practices. For our children's sake, the outdated version of the dreaded sex talk has to change. Our first job as parents is to keep our children alive and safe. We readily teach them to keep fingers out of electrical sockets and to look both ways before crossing a busy street. But when it comes to providing kids with some basic information about sexual health, many parents feel hesitant and embarrassed. As a result, they may avoid the subject entirely. Embarrassed or not, it's your responsibility as a parent to talk about the subject with your kids anyway. You can also provide them with accurate, youth-friendly materials to read in print or online. If you don't, your kids may well learn about sex from sources that aren't exactly reliable. So, as we begin to start normalizing sex around our children, let's keep a few guidelines in mind. Point number 1. Don't wait too long to start talking about sex. Very young children can learn the correct names for the parts of their bodies. You can also discuss with them the need for people to be honest about their feelings and to be kind and respectful of other people's feelings. These are basic lessons for good sexual relationships that you can build on later. If you do not start these conversations early, don't be surprised if your child becomes more resistant as they approach puberty. Nonetheless, plan to revisit the subject of sex and sexual health often in an age-appropriate manner as the kids grow up. And if you didn't start early, don't let that keep you from talking with your kids now. There's no use regretting past mistakes. It's never too late to start talking with your kid about sex and relationships. The second point, don't pretend you are cool, calm, or collected about discussing sex if you are not. It's better to admit to your own feelings, even if you feel awkward. That way, you are modeling emotional honesty for your child, as well as doing the right thing even when it's not necessarily the easy thing. You can begin the conversation with, "This is going to be awkward, but we are going to talk about it anyway because it's important." Your task is to normalize talking about sex and to give kids a space where they can ask you anything. Point number 3, don't forget that your kids will do their own research. So make sure your kids know where to get reliable information without talking to you. Steer them to trustworthy, easy to use websites or leave books lying around which can provide the required information. Point number 4, Do discuss biology and safe sex practices, but don't ignore feelings and values. Discussions about sex should address your hopes and expectations for your child and your family's values. Even though you can't dictate your child's choices, but if you want your child to behave responsibly as a sexual being and to be kind and respectful to both themselves and their partners, please say so. Teach them the importance of boundaries and clarity with sexual partners. A good age for a talk about relevant values is about age 11 or 12. The next point, let your child know they can expect to make mistakes. Remind your child that we all make mistakes in all spheres of life, including sex. Perhaps their mistake will be having unprotected sex. Let them know that they can always get tested for an STD in such a situation and get treated if necessary. Also explain that there are medications that can prevent pregnancy after unprotected sex. Help your kids understand that in their sex lives, as in all other aspects of their lives, mistakes are opportunities for them to grow and learn and do better next time. The next point, consent is crucial. I think one major component most parents fail to communicate to their children is consent to sexual encounters. We have all seen what's going on in the news. Each of these stories is different but carry similar threads. Whether it's by coercing, drugging, or taking advantage of minors, perpetrators believe it's okay to have sex without consent. So I am hoping that when the time comes to talk to your child about sex, consent is a part of your discussion. Now more than ever, our children need to be protected from predators who feel that bodies are free game. Our children will one day indulge in sex, whether we like it or not. And it's our job to make sure they are happy, healthy, and safe. The next point, model your own experiences of pleasure. It's not just about what we say. Kids also learn a lot from what they observe. Let your children see you enjoying foods and activities and even physical and emotional interactions with your partners. And we should wholeheartedly enjoy all things with the children too. When you laugh together or read books together or do things that they enjoy, you are showing them that it is really wonderful to engage in activities that make you feel good. The last but not the least, do normalize pleasure. Of course, all of the above helps to establish pleasure as a natural part of life. But as your kids grow older and they roll their eyes extra hard at you because you want to talk about sex, you also need to share resources with them that they can peruse in their own time or use as jumping points for further conversations with you. A powerful framework to use when teaching kids how to make major life decisions, including those around sexuality, is to remember that it's important for their head, their heart, and their body to be aligned. In this way, they know that pleasure isn't the only thing that should drive their decision making. So keeping the head, heart, and body aligned is really important, and that is why I'm reiterating this point. If we are going to be open and honest with our kids and talk about how babies are made, a piece of that is the fact that it's pleasurable. We don't want them to think that it's gross or bad or scary. If we don't talk about pleasure when we are talking about reproduction, we are only telling our children a half truth. Lessons that omit talk of pleasure is to be, in a way, honest. Sex is the most common way people make babies, but it's also how they show love and affection and experience pleasure. So remember, early conversations about pleasure, sexual or otherwise, will help children become adults who engage in healthy sexual relationships. I hope these pointers have helped and that you will use them when you start talking to your children about sex. All of you, please remember, let's normalize sex in our talk with our children so that they grow up to be responsible adults. Thank you for your patience in listening to me, and thank you again, I am and Rotary, for giving me this opportunity.